I've had the good fortune in my monastic life to have the opportunity to spend a lot of time in the kitchen and to be able to serve our teachers and the Sangha community in a very special way. And it's also been an amazing place to cook my practice. And so I'll share just a couple of things that I have learned from the kitchen. So one of the big things that I've learned from being in the kitchen is this shifting of approach. When it comes to like, what am I going to make for lunch? I came to the Abbey with the idea that, well, whatever I like, other people will like too. And thankfully, one of our elders one day when I was talking to her about this, she's like, maybe you want to think about what other people will like, and then develop the mind that will also like that too. And so it's been very wonderful to shift that approach when thinking about what I'm going to cook is to like, what is the general population in the Abbey going to enjoy, rather than what does Munlam want for lunch. And then there's also this other, kind of sector of what needs to be used. What do we have a lot of? What is on the use now shelf? What's been sitting around for a long time? Hence, we had some carrot top tomatillo basil sauce yesterday, using what needed to be used. The kitchen is a great place to work with attachment to praise and reputation. Because no matter how thoughtful I am about making something that everyone will like, you can't please everybody all the time. Some people will love it, and some people will not touch it with a 10-foot pole. There is probably an example this afternoon of some chocolate soy milk, where some people might hear that and be like, yum, amazing. And some people might hear that and be like, why are you ruining chocolate? So you can't please everyone, and so looking for that kind of, praise and you're amazing and things like that, yes, can happen when we make a lunch, especially when it's made with a lot of love. I think that's the secret ingredient in making delicious food. But then someone else is going to, put their dish in the compost bucket or not even have some. So to not, base how good am I on other people's opinions of the food that I prepare has been really helpful. Another thing that I've learned when making lunch is that things don't go according to plan. Sometimes there's an ingredient that I thought I saw in the fridge yesterday, but it's not there this morning. Or sometimes, like Venerable Nawang recently experienced, the power went out in the middle of his making lunch. And so we need to be flexible as we are preparing lunch. And in that flexibility, also not to take it too far, to not, second guess myself of like, oh my gosh, is my plan too ambitious and I'm going to be able to pull it off? And do I need to make 10 changes to actually get it out there on time? Like really, there's also some places where I need to like just commit to what my plan is, make adjustments if it needs to be adjusted, and like have confidence that I can go in this direction towards lunch and something will be on the serving table. It's usually not what I expected it to be, but that's okay. People will usually try anything once. And then also, with the things not going according to plan, sometimes things actually fail. And so to not base my own opinion of myself, as a failure just because, like, I served raw pot pie twice. Some of you guys may remember that. But, it's, like you get back in there. It's like, okay, I can learn from my mistakes. Use a shallow pan instead of making it a deep dish. Or like use a timer to prevent burning the vegetables so that I remember to check them in the oven. So it's an opportunity to like learn from our mistakes and move forward. It doesn't need to be a place where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm serving some horrible food. I'm never cooking again. But instead, how can I, do better next time? Knowing that lunch will be over very soon. People won't even remember it next week. And, life goes on. So when I was here as a guest it was the end of 2019, the beginning of 2020, I was here for about 4 months. And I got to cook a number of times in that period. And, I enjoyed being in the kitchen. And I was like, oh no, I'm never going to be assigned to the kitchen again because I enjoy it. And you know how it works at the Abbey is you get assigned things that are, difficult and that you don't like. But lo and behold, I did get to be assigned into the kitchen. And, now maybe it's the other side of like sometimes I can't escape. But I do like being in there, so it seems to be a good fit. So I am one of our 3 kitchen managers. And I'm the one who's, the most visible, who people will usually see the most often in there. And so the question or the expression can kind of come up, am I a kitchen boss? Or am I bossy? It really depends on who you ask. So some people seem to ask questions and like appreciate this, leadership and guidance that I can, try to bring. And some people don't. And again, like it's not that I need to base my own, qualities, my own, am I doing a good job as a kitchen manager on whether someone, appreciates me in this role or not, or thinks I'm, in charge or I'm being bossy. But I can, connect with what is my own motivation. Am I really trying to be helpful? Or am I trying to, point out someone's faults and tell them what to do because this is how I would do it? So having that discernment is something else that I'm still working on that, but I've come a ways. I've come a ways. And one of the real pleasures of being a kitchen manager is that I do get to work with each person who signs up to cook each month. That I do get to, see this side of people that comes out in the kitchen. Because it is, it's a kind of a high stress place. Usually there's a pretty significant timeline of when lunch is served, and things do go wrong. They don't go according to plan. Stuff comes up. And so I get to, connect with people in this, the hot spot of the Abbey, and cultivate this mind that really wants to be helpful in, whatever that looks like, because it looks different for everybody. And then I also, one of the aspects of this role is that I appreciate that I am also still growing into is to be willing to share things that I think are beneficial for people to hear, but that they might not want to hear. And this really pushes against my people-pleasing tendencies where I feel, kind of awkward and uncomfortable when I am going to share something that I think is going to maybe upset the other person, that they don't want to hear. A lot of this is often my own projection, but to get the opportunity to think, am I saying this because I want to be helpful? Is this really something that is important to say? And if so, how can I say it in a way that the other person has a chance of being able to hear it? Some other qualities that have been really great are to be patient when giving instructions or supporting other cooks. This awareness that not everybody has the same perspective of me as I do. Not everyone has the same background knowledge of either what's going on in this kitchen or how to kind of prepare vegetables or food in general. And so I don't need to get impatient if someone is doing something an ineffective way. But instead, that I can slow down and, explain it as if maybe they've never heard it before, because maybe they never really have. And to also be curious. And this is something really nice that's led me to be able to learn a lot from all the different cooks of, why are you doing things the way that you're doing it? And there's many different examples of, folks doing things that I had never even thought of that I'm like, that's brilliant. I'm going to start doing that too. So to be curious and try and understand, why are people doing things the way they're doing? And that also helps to understand, maybe, if it's just not being done in a way that I think makes sense, then it helps. It's like, oh, okay, I can see we do things in a different order, but it all, I think, is going to work out in the end. Another really valuable opportunity for me in the kitchen is to see where my attachments are. I noticed it yesterday when the oven racks were upside down. I found 2 spatulas in the wrong spot. But the kitchen the soup ladles were in the right cubby. But to notice, like, oh, when I have these, like, this irritation of, like, the racks are upside down and things don't slide evenly, like, there's attachment there. You know, I had some expectations of how things should be. And so when I can notice this, like, the irritation that comes in and then back that up to, like, oh, what were my expectations? You know, it can help me see actually how my whole life is filled with so many expectations, and that when I can, like, drop that and just be more present with whatever the situation is, that there's going to be more contentment instead of the kind of the resentment that builds up after putting the spatula away each and every day. Like, oh, if I just expect actually the spatula is going to be in the wrong spot, it's no big deal. And so the kitchen overall is this place where I can really see my capacity building, an increase of fortitude and compassion and kindness, hopefully some wisdom and some other good qualities. And I see this as a really excellent training ground because I really aspire to, you know, be able to have the capacity to hold as much as our teachers do, to hold as much as our seniors do, who also can still, you know, run circles around me. And I'm quite inspired by just the establishment of Sravasti Abbey here in the West, in this place where there's not a lot of other Buddhism. You know, there's some in Spokane, you know, but it's not popular. This is, you know, considered a place where the Buddha Dharma is not really established. And so I see this role as kitchen manager as helping me develop the qualities that perhaps in a future life I will have, you know, what is needed to establish a monastery in a place where the Buddha Dharma has not been established, or in a place where it once existed but then declined. And so it takes, I think, incredible fortitude, incredible perseverance, incredible patience, and, you know, many other good qualities. And the kitchen is an amazing training ground to cultivate that.